Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl Lauren Sizzle, and you are now tuned in to one of the hottest talk shows in the nation. We Talk Weekly's After the Talk.
I'm Classy Lady Sparkle. You want to binge listen to our shows? Follow the We Talk Weekly's podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spreaker.
What up, folks? It's your boy Charles Gregory. Make sure to follow us on all our socials at We Talk Weekly.
Hey, y'all, it's your girl Lily. So make sure you keep it locked to We Talk Weekly on 106.5 FM.
Classy Lady, who do we have today?
Today we have David O., who is a true native of Philadelphia, and he loves his city. David's father, the late Reverend King Hung O., founded the first Korean American church. David was the first Asian American elected to political office in Philadelphia. He's also the only military veteran currently serving on the city council. David and his family live on the same block he grew up on in Southwest Philadelphia. There are so many layers to David O. Let's get into this conversation. So let's please give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome to Mr. David O.
Hello, how are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me here.
Oh, man, we really appreciate you being here. And, of course, we got a few questions for you. We've been having a lot of the candidates here and just asking them, this is as you know, we're in a historic time, moment with so many people who are running, But before I get into that and asking you all the questions, I always start with this, right? Why don't you tell people what your platform is, what are you running for, and pretty much why are you running to be mayor for Philadelphia?
Well, I think the most obvious problem that we have is crime. The murders are horrendous. They are different in nature and character than we've ever had before. I think part of the problem that we see is when we have people as young as 13 and 15 hunting other people, 13 and 15, and then running up on them and shooting them like 18 times. That's unprecedented. It's also the fact that when they can't find someone they're hunting for, they don't mind shooting their mother, their little brother, somebody who was just in a social media picture with them. And it is a huge problem for them and for us. So there has been an effort to try to address this type of behavior in the most timid type of way, the most gentle, intelligent, thoughtful way, but it's just not working. And there's a point where, I think people in the city have had it, because nobody wants their kids to go out, catch the bus, and get shot. Yeah. Nobody wants to walk out the neighborhood and for no reason someone run up on them and hurt them. We would love to find a happy medium, but we've gone past that point. Right. There's a point where now we have to stop the violence, like stop the bleeding, and then put things in order for the sake of those who would be victims and also for the sake of those who would be perpetrators and find themselves killing someone, getting killed, or ending up in prison. Right. Now we could look at what is the cause of all of this once we stop the bleeding. And what I'd say is this. We hear every election what the problems are. We all know what they are. Bad schools, lack of equity in facilities, resources, lack of jobs, affordable housing. We could go through the entire gamut. The issue is, why does it never change? Why do we always hear the same talk? And afterwards, it doesn't get better. It seems to get worse. And so I think that it really comes down to this, the will to make the change. And so I have the will to make the change first. I think there's too little emphasis on jobs, opportunities, and economic growth. And the reason I say that is it's been kind of vilified as being capitalist and evil. But if you think about it, at least I'll say the way I think about it, everybody wants to be somebody. And what they desire to be, what they aspire to be, they would like to pursue. On top of that, they like to put food on the table and pay the bills, right? Yeah. So it's not simply that they could, let's say, have some type of ability in poverty to do what they want. They want to excel at what they want to be. Like you were talking about music and the arts. Yeah. They're not in it for the money, but don't restrict the money either.
That's right. That's right.
Be the economic engine, and so with that, they get their respect. They become an economic engine. They do good back in the community. I mean, I think the government, at least from my perspective and having been on council for 11 years, really focuses on keeping people poor. And I hate to say it that way, but I think that's what it is. Like, every program is about, you got to be a nonprofit, you can't make too much money, things like that. And then whenever we try to help someone, whether it's in fashion or in music or in producing, like, we want them to be unfettered. Look, a lot of people are not going to make a lot of money. That's the truth, but they're going to love what they do. But why not make a lot of money? Why not be the person who has the power to make the change in the neighborhood? Like, why should we have drug dealers being the only person with money and admired in some weird sense? Why not people in academics or arts or in technology and right there in the neighborhood? So I think, one, look at our schools. I mean, I would just say this. If I were elected mayor, I will take the resignation of the school board members, period. To me, you cannot have a school that is so poorly resourced, asbestos, undrinkable water, all that stuff, and then you have another school like about 30 minutes away with 3D printers, and the kids see it, they know it, and doesn't that make them feel what? Like they're not concerned, and people don't care about them? You know, it creates that basic kind of animosity and the sense that, nobody cares about us, and what is our life? For so many young people that we see, as you know, they're living a life of living fast, burning out quick. And that's just a young person's mindset, but we got to change it. The first thing we could do is show them by cleaning up their neighborhood, bringing things into their school, doing things that show them that we are spending the money to care about them. And while it's symbolic at its very first step, I think it's a relief. You know, people in the neighborhood says, look, wow, they're really doing things. I don't mean like doing something that takes 20 years, shut down the block. I mean, they're doing things that I could use right now. 3 months, 6 months. They're doing some new things. You know, it's more hopeful. And then I'd like to say that people have to have a bright sense of the future for themselves, for their children, for their loved ones. If Philadelphia is a declining city, if you get on the subway system right now and say, man, it's never been like this before, that is a declining city. And I'll say this, there's a lot of people out there, and they know this is true, they are thinking about or have gotten a gun. Now, the demographic of people who do not like handguns, more than any demographic of people, are black women. The group of people buying handguns more than any demographic of people is black women. What is wrong with this picture? And so because we are not providing them a sense of safety, because they're not confident in the police, because they're not feeling like, you know, someone can take care of them, they are opting to take care of themselves, and they don't want to. So I think there's just a lot wrong with this, that if we would start taking care of things, get on that bus, see that it's clean and that it's accommodating. The schedule is appropriate. Like basically, you know, public transportation, so many people depend on it. It's not an option. Some people don't need it. They could ride it for fun, but basically they could do Uber and Lyft. But a lot of people, they rely on it. It is the only way to go through. And for this city to not fight with SEPTA, I tried in different times to withhold money from SEPTA. The way SEPTA works is, you know, they get money from each county, like Philadelphia. I think we gave them $95 million. If we don't give them the full amount of money, or if we withhold the money, they do not get hundreds of millions of dollars in federal financing, federal monies. And people say, well, you wouldn't do that, would you? Oh, yes, I would. Look, they're all plans about billions of dollars outside of the city. Look at how they don't create a good transportation system for us, and a clean and safe one. They experiment with things, but that's not the place to experiment. That's the place to provide good service.
You're pulling back the layers here. I mean, literally, these are a lot of the. Wow, we didn't even touch some of those topics yet. You know, when we talk about SEPTA and even the statistic about, you know, the demographic that are purchasing more guns are black women. I never knew that.
There was an increase, you know, just recently over people who filed for their license to carry.
We have 3 black women in here. I'm not going to ask you.
I was in that number.
But to your point, before the pandemic, we had about 11,000 applications for carry permits, and now it's like 75,000.
And we can all probably raise our hands that after that, that's when I got my gun permit.
And let me say this, because I think it's a very important point. For everyone who has a legal gun, there's someone who has an illegal gun. Because they too are fearing for their lives. And so they're armed as well. So this powder keg of a city, and I think it's a shame because it's a lot of people who never wanted to own a gun. And I think we have to get back to a place where they feel like they could put it somewhere and not touch it, maybe get rid of it, something like that.
So let's talk about that then, right? Let's talk about crime, right? That's where we are. That's one of the hot button topics that
gun violence. Number one.
Go ahead, because I know you.
Oh no, I was going to say gun violence is just the number one concern for Philadelphians in general.
Yeah, and so that's top of the list of Philadelphia priority number one. How can we resolve, remedy, get rid of whatever you want to use? How can we fix this situation on the increase of crime?
So I would say that from what I've observed and looked at, there are 2 important sources of this type of violence. I mean, we have crime, but this type of violence comes from 2 sources. One is drug dealing. We have people that are making so much money selling drugs that they're not up for the competition. And there's a lot of murder that occurs in order to keep or expand the territories. The other one, now the thing about that, we know where they are. We can observe them, we can arrest them, we can process them. We have to limit, but our city has come up with a new policy, and let's say it's well intended, but the new policy is we're going to distinguish between minor crimes and major crimes. But there are no real minor crimes in the sense that people cut each other off in traffic and someone pulls out the gun and shoots them, right? People want to know that there's going to be someone to enforce public safety and lack of harassment and lack of violent crimes, things like that. So where we know these drug gangs are, and obviously Kensington Avenue is a huge one, where, the city's policy is you can come from anywhere in this region or anywhere else, and we will not bother you, we will not harass you, we will not arrest you. You can shoot up right in the middle of the street, you can defecate, you can prostitute. And the advocates say, well, these drug-addicted people, they need drugs, so don't arrest the drug dealers. Now, I would say this. To me, the only person they care about is the drug-addicted person. They don't care about the resident, and they certainly don't care about the drug dealers, who mostly are going to be Hispanic and African-American young men for the most part, and they are going to jail and they're killing each other. We have to look at this holistically. So the fact that we have a place called Kensington Avenue, rather than each individual, the place attracts and draws in such misery continuously year after year, year after year. And so we can stop that, because when we stop that, we stop the flow of people coming in. We stop the flow of money. There will always be drug dealing, don't get me wrong, but it will be pushed back into some hidden place, into indoor locations, something. They're going to make money. But right now, they're out in the open. They're fighting over corners. They tell people, don't come out on a Wednesday night. We're going to have a shootout at 6 o'clock. They tell the children, don't come out after 6. We're going to have a shootout. And they do. But they also tell the community, if you say anything to the police, we're going to walk up behind you and shoot you in the back of the head, right? So that's one level. The other problem, as we were talking about, this kind of like hunting each other. The thing that astounds me is this, everyone in the neighborhood knows who's hunting, right? They do. It's these people in the white Toyota and the black, Ford, and they're driving around the neighborhood. Well, they are armed, they're young. Why can't the police stop them? Why can't a drone follow them? Why can't we do this? And that's the mystery, right? Because everyone in the neighborhood is like, well, How come nothing is being done about this? And it makes them feel like nothing can be done. And from there, what happens is people, what's the conclusion? Because nobody cares.
Yeah.
Because we're not important enough people that anyone would actually give a whatever about our conditions and circumstances, that our kids are getting killed, that we live in this type of misery.
Right. I don't want to give the perception that, all right, so I don't want to get a perception that only kids who ride in Fords and Toyotas are the ones that's committing stuff. So, right. So we're just kind of generally kind of speaking with respect to you.
And let me say, I'm thinking about a real case.
Right, there you go. There you go. All
because
right,
I'm thinking about a real case. And,
Right.
and let me go into a little further. Someone brought my attention to 9 mothers
Right.
who were being shot at for over a year because of their children. Their children supposedly, maybe, possibly cooperated with law enforcement, and so people are looking for them. They can't find the children, so they're shooting at the mother. So I went there. I went to the house, as you said, right?
Yeah.
I see the lamppost got a bullet hole in it. I go in the house, all the windows are covered. I talked to the daughter. She was like maybe 13 or 14. You know, she was typical, didn't like me there, didn't want me there. Her mother was all in tears. She wanted me there. The daughter was like, Miss Smarty Pants. And everything was fine, tough as nails, this young lady. Until I asked her, well, what happens if, someone can't pick you up?
Right.
And she said, well, someone's going to pick me up. I said, what happens? And she started to cry. Now, that's the truth, right? In other words, that's the truth. When you see truth, no more tough act.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad that we have this much trauma in our community. And I think the big thing is this. See, if I say we're going to have a drone, we're going to police, we're going to follow,
Right.
There's a group of people in Philadelphia say you're a rotten person. You're using police brutality, doing all that stuff. Okay, maybe that's your opinion, but I will say this. If you ask those children, if you ask the community, if you ask the mother, they want some intervention. They cannot intervene themselves. They don't want anybody to get killed or hurt, but they want something done. And that's why it's important.
I agree. One second. I agree with that. And I guess the retort or, one thing that I would put out there is that it's that mentality that oftentimes create that whole idea of stop and frisk. And it becomes a targeted group of or demographic that, they start to say, you know what, well, you got that black Ford.
Right.
Or that black Toyota. So, windows tinted, that's kind of the perception of what a drug dealer. Let me stop you.
Yes, and I agree with 1,000%, by the way, because I'm against stop and frisk. It's unconstitutional.
Right.
Whenever our city instructs our police to take actions that are illegal, a violation of civil rights and constitutional rights, it has long-lasting ramifications.
Yes, it does.
Because the police are now the villains, and we shouldn't have
100%. Yep.
And the other thing is that we have cycles. And this is beyond my control or anybody's control. We have cycles in crime, right? We have so much crime that somebody wants to drop the hammer.
Yeah.
And after dropping the hammer and crime is controlled, somebody says, hey, you know what, it's overkill.
Yeah.
So then we narrow it down into, like they call focused deterrence or more intelligent policing and law enforcement. And then someone comes along and says, hey, we don't even need to do that. We could just be much more lenient. We could be more understanding. And then they withdraw that, and then crime starts getting rampant until somebody says it's time to drop the hammer.
Yeah.
We're about to drop the hammer on crime. And what I would say for you and everybody else listening, before we get that far, let's take intelligent steps, because the first people that we gotta address are the victims in the neighborhoods. As soon as they feel like, hey, somebody cares, there's a lot of the idea of morale. Like, I give an example. Do you remember the case where these ladies were at a club and they got in their cars, and they must have, I think, rejected some of the men. The men followed them in their cars, pulled up at 33rd and Diamond,
Yes.
hopped out, and opened fire on the ladies.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It is a completely different culture.
It is.
But I went there the next day, and you know what I saw? I saw nothing.
Yeah.
There was no yellow tape. There was no police vehicle. It was like it never happened. And I think that message to the community is,
100%.
you know, your lives
Don't matter.
Don't matter.
Don't matter.
Look-
Black
now
lives
look
don't
at-
matter.
Now look at the schools.
Right, right.
Now look at the look at the look at the trash. Now look at the everything added up together says our city doesn't care. You're on your own.
But
You're on it.
and David, you said a lot of
yes,
great
trying to
points.
unpack
So
that, yes.
I'm going to hit on some of the things that you mentioned and just see if you can speak towards it, not so much answer it. But you talked about about the crime and about the guns and everything like that. And a lot of times they say follow the money. A lot of these crimes are happening because of the lack of income. The poverty rate in Philadelphia alone, minimum wage is still at $7.25, where these women who have, single parent homes are raising actual children, paying rent, paying mortgage and everything else on a $7.25. So then now here's a child who is eating oodles and noodles or Cheetos for dinner, then going to school and then not having a good education. So now you're lacking in the education. Then they're seeing the drug dealers, and then the drug dealers are like, hey, you want to make some money? Okay, now this kid has gotten recruited to go out here, and now that's where the cycle begins. So you spoke about how SEPTA just got 9.25 million or whatever million. Why isn't some of this money, instead of trying to make Philadelphia a tourist attraction, to build the money and saying, okay, we're going to help these houses, we're going to give these grants, but then they say we're going to give the grants, but you have to have all this criteria in order to fulfill it, or it's hidden, it's not advertised. People don't know, so it's so many things that I think that we're saying we know what the problem is, but where's the solutions? The solutions now are we're going to fix these houses up. We're going to offer more money. We're going to make accessibility. There's so many nonprofit programs out here that I know individually of 10 people who have tried to show that the city of Philadelphia community-wise, but they don't have any money. Yeah. They're like, okay, all this big money is going to these big conglomerates of getting money, and that money is not even being shown where these people that are on the beaten path of Philadelphia, of natives, that are giving their blood, sweat, and tears, but they can't get any money.
So what's
to
the
help.
question? What's the question, Sparks? So we
It
can
was
answer it.
all layered, meaning why can't we use the money and find a way to help these families, these people, because everything from the drugs, everything, even with, Philadelphia, and this is something else, but they got the meth labs, they don't have marijuana where it's legal. That might even deteriorate where the crime rate. So like I said, when I preferenced it, it's a layer of everything you spoke about. If you want to just touch on any points that I made, please go ahead.
Yeah, the reason you're frustrated is because everything that you said is obvious, right? Yeah. In other words, you're not saying anything that's kind of like out there. You're saying what people say around the kitchen table.
That's right.
And I'd like to call it the kitchen cabinet, right? In other words, if you had people at the kitchen cabinet, we'd have a better run city, because they're like, well, how come this school is like this and that school's like that? Sure. So for example, when you talk about, people hear about all this money, 100 million for that, 200 million for this, but they never see it. Like they want to, where's the evidence that this money is actually being used? The roads don't look better. The schools don't look better, And what you pointed out is the people that, for example, many times are known, not just in the neighborhood, but throughout the city as being the people who do this work. They don't have any money. So there's tens of millions and 50 million and 30 million, but the people who do the work don't have the money. And it's because of all the layers you talked about, right? They don't have a degree, they don't have this, they don't have that. But wouldn't it be possible for the city to create kind of like a central location that had the nonprofit and basically supported the work? So the money came from here for them to do their work, pay the salaries, took care of the accounting, all that stuff. So they just simply had to do the work. because they do the work well. They work with the kids. They intervene in violence. They do all that. Some of the people who intervene with violence, their credentials are 10 bullet holes. They don't have a master's. They don't have this. They don't have, but they go out. Now, your normal person is not doing that.
Right.
Your normal person does not go up between two rival gangs trying to kill each other, show up and talk to them at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So that person needs to be supported. There's not many of them, right? But they can be supported. But our government does not set up those type of things, and I think in part because there's a lot of fear that if I actually supported Malik Aziz, or if I really supported OG Law, if I really supported Samad, because they have like some questionable background, had something wrong with their finances. Well, yeah, because they didn't come from Harvard.
Yeah,
exactly. But they're doing the work, right? So someone has to make the decision. We're going to support them, and we're going to give them the parameters that they will not fail in that a sense of the word. I think about, for example, like when you talk about the music and the arts.
Right.
Why do I do that?
Yeah.
Well, because, listen, I would love for young people to want to be plumbers. And I won't pick on plumbers because now all the plumbers upset.
They're going to be calling you.
They get money.
I would love them to be plumbers because they make great money, right?
Right.
But every time you try to get kids to travel all the way up to the far northeast, you give them tokens and everything, they don't want to go.
That's right.
Because they're young, right? We were all young. We didn't want to do stuff. What do they want to do? They want to do music.
That's right.
They want to do fashion. They want to do graphics. They want to do art. They
YouTube,
yeah.
On
So,
YouTube,
so
for
let's
sure.
give it to them.
Yeah.
Let's give them what they want because they love it, and give them the tools and the resources. I had a small business person. He just made a donation of $11,000 to Edison High School to put in an audio room for the kids to be doing sound and video and things like that.
That's awesome.
This is not a super wealthy guy, just a small business person, but he's done that every year. Yeah. And so, but the problem is, okay, Edison will have an audio room, but no other school.
Right.
Every
Exactly.
school needs the same thing.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Kudos to Councilman Curtis Jones and his work in Overbrook for things like that. And Dobbins is doing some things around music and arts. And I'll ask you, if you become mayor, are you willing to keep that commitment to supporting the arts and putting money within the arts and protecting it?
Yeah. What happened is
I gotta. I'm an advocate for that because that's what keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah, and let me say this: it's a money maker. Yeah. So for those who don't know,
there you go.
Prior to the pandemic, the arts brought in $3.4 billion in our city. It was basically $920 million in household income, $157 million in local taxes. But the other thing is the potential increase. Like some industries, you hit the max, you hit the ceiling. They're not going to grow, right?
Yeah.
But the creative arts economy, it's global, and it has such an upward expansion that we could really do a lot with it, and the young people love it. They love to do it, and we could provide that for them. So I tried to do a $40 million arts recovery fund. It was defeated in council. The money came from $1.4 billion in federal stimulus money to get our economy back going. I think that is a very good use of that because right now fashion is leaving New York.
Yes.
And we have a lot of urban fashion.
That's right.
And
Talk
there's
about
a lot of talented people. And and it's a great equalizer. Look, there's a lot of people who are rich and they love fashion, but they don't have that edginess that some of our young people on the streets. Right. I mean, like they put the fashion together, and then like people want to buy it.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful, right? Music, of course, right? And it's one of the places where people can take pain and loss and regret and turn it into spoken word, into a poem, into a song. And we have so many people that could excel. But the problem is this: you may be like an amazing basketball player, but if you never get a basketball in your hand and get on the court, you'll just be stocking shelves, if that, right? So trying to expose the people to like where their talents are And, just historically speaking, we are one of the most gifted cities in America.
100%.
Everybody knows that. I know
right.
that.
That's
It's, when we talk to people in the industry, they'll say, "Oh, Philadelphia, yeah." There's a musician from Philadelphia in every major band or whatever. So I'm not making this up just because I'm here in Philadelphia. We have some very talented people, but we also have this. We have people who've made it and who feel like Philadelphia never gave them a helping hand.
That's right.
So when they make it, they're not coming back here.
Yeah.
And it's a big loss for us. Why don't we help them?
Yeah. I appreciate that. I just want to kind of give you your flowers while we're on the platform right now, because I do see you in there. And, we had the opportunity to kind of give a testament of, Philadelphia fashion and people who work within that scope of fashion. And literally, you were the only one. Kudos to Quinona Sanchez. She was there also. I forgot it was someone else. But literally, it seems to be the only advocate fighting for that. And so I appreciate that, and I want to acknowledge that that's what's going on. So I just wanted to go there. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, because I know this is pretty much probably a sore spot or a touchy situation, but you mentioned a lot about victims, and you yourself were a victim of crime. How do you keep going? Because some people have been victimized, they're like, that's it, I'm done, I'm not.
Your process.
What pushes you to continue going and fighting for the
so
city?
everybody's got their own way of dealing with things. I'll just say this, that so I was born and raised in Cobbs Creek, which technically is actually Kingsessing. We live across from Cobbs Creek Park. We call it Cobbs Creek.
Southwest.
I never knew. I looked at the map. I said, "Oh my God, we're in Kingsessing." Anyway, so getting stabbed in front of my house is not like the worst thing that happened to me. It just happened to me while I was a council person. Wow. I've had guns pulled on me multiple times and things like that. So I've had that whole experience. And I think when it happens to you when you're young, and this is one of the problems we have, and it's a bad thing, but then again, I'm not sure. Like, in other words, at Longstreth, my friends were, it was during the gang war years. It was the late 60s, early 70s. There was a lot of killing and that type of thing. And I don't want to say, I'm kind of jaded by it. It's more like it was not like a shocking thing. It was just like the normal thing. Sadly, your friend got killed by your friend, right? Two friends that kill each other. So being a victim to me is like stepping out and it starts raining. Like, you can either plop down in the cement and cry about it, or you could just keep yourself dry as possible and go about your business. So I got stabbed in front of my house, and but to me it's kind of like I fell down the steps and I got up and I was like, oh, I'm okay. So I'll go back to whatever I was doing. And I think the other important thing, and this is where we get a little deep and a little kind of out there. I think it is important not to bear grudges, me personally. I just think that if someone did bad to you, and who isn't a human being that someone didn't do bad to, right? But if you see that person and you hate that person, you don't want to talk to that person, that person has got a power over you, right? They're making, you're changing your behavior. You're changing who you are because of that person. But, if something happened, okay, it happened. It was intentional or whatever. Let it go. I say forgive and forget. And people tell me forgive but never forget. I'm like, no. Forgive and forget like it never happened. And I'll say this religiously, right? In my faith as a Christian, I have been forgiven and my sins have been forgotten like they never occurred. Wow. And I'm asked to do the same. Now I don't want to get on a high horse here,
no,
like I got you, because it's embarrassing, right, to say oh, I have these high values. No, I can't live up to it. But I do recognize that what I should do is I should forgive as I've been forgiven. I should hold nothing in my heart because nothing has been held against me. And then the other thing that I really think is this. It's not because I love the other person. Right. I wish it were. I would be some kind of super person if I could do that, right?
For sure.
But it is a testimony of God's love. It's not my love. God loves this person who stabbed me or who did me wrong. God loves them. They don't want them to ruin their lives. They want them to be happy and successful. All I got to do is be the messenger and also remember, you know what? I've been blessed.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you're taking it. And wow, I learn more and more every time I talk to you, right? I didn't think that this conversation would go this way because we had some questions and you're kind of answering them as we go. And I only have a few more questions, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask first, what makes you the best candidate? We have so many candidates. And quick question, and no one can answer this for me. It's so many of you guys that were on city council.
Yes.
How come you couldn't just kind of say, you know, all right, who will be the best candidate for the job? I literally, can you not be political?
Yeah.
You know, and just answer that question for me.
Yeah. So what happens is we have a city council of 17 people.
Okay.
And what city council does, if you're a district council person, you get zoning in your 1/10 of the city. You get money to give out, all that, right? I'm an at-large. I get no money, no zoning. I serve the whole city, right? But what we do fundamentally is we make laws.
Right.
The mayor makes decisions. He can actually say, okay, police do this or don't do this. We're going to do this training or we're not going to. We're going to invest in this. We're going to turn this around. We're going to do affordable housing. We're not going to do, like, that is a decision of the mayor. And so city council sometimes trying to act like they're the mayor, but they can't. They can't act like the mayor because they're not the mayor.
Right.
So we just came to a point, because it's interesting to me, like normally nobody leaves city council, right?
Yeah,
People always say like these people, like they die in office and
Yeah,
they want to
yeah,
leave, right?
yeah.
But this year, for some reason, everybody left, and you know, they wanted to run for mayor.
Interesting.
And everybody's got like an opinion and an idea. Some of them I disagree with, and they disagree with me, all that kind of thing. But to answer your first question, like I think what happens is this. I think it's the season, not the candidate. Like, in other words,
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you stepped out your house and all of a sudden, like, it started snowing like crazy. So you run to the store, you get a snow shovel, you get salt, you know. Crime is the snow. Yeah. The pandemic is the snow. These entire circumstance and the explosive anger of our young people and just the terrible conditions and the fact that like inflation is killing people. You know, people can't afford to buy things. People are beside themselves. Affordable housing, living, everything is coming to a chaotic point. And people are offering different solutions, and I'm offering solutions that are a little different. The thing I'll say about what I try to do is this.
That makes you the best candidate?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. All right.
I think I'm clear.
Got you.
Like, people may not like my ideas, they may like my ideas, but I don't fudge with them. I just tell people what I'm going to do, whether they like it or not. I'm not trying to get people to like what I would do. I try to let people understand that I will really do this, and therefore, if you don't want it done, don't vote for me. Go vote for somebody else, because I think that's what I'm supposed to do. Let people know. So this is what I will do. I will fight with SEPTA. I will fight with American Airlines. I want different flights. I want more overseas investment. I want to construct things. I want more state of the art. I want the arts economy. You know, I want to fund community college the way it's supposed to be. I want equity in the schools. I don't really understand why we can't have equity in the schools, and so I will see equity. Now, when I say equity, I mean, look at a post office. You go to a post office in a poor neighborhood, rich neighborhood. It's the same post office, same services, everything. But schools, so dramatically different, and that is unconstitutional. But somehow we don't have the wherewithal to make the stakeholders in this unhappy. And that's part of the problem, because we have stakeholders. They're good folks, but sometimes they obstruct the changes that are needed, right? They're invested in how things are and keeping them the way they are.
Gotcha.
So before you came in, we had a discussion about the Sixers arena.
Yes.
And Classy Lady Sparkle had discussed the story.
Yeah.
So we were going to ask you, what were your thoughts about the arena And should it be there? Should it not be there? If it's there, how can, it both accommodate the Asian community and also the Black community, where it's the jobs are intended for, some Black businesses
Yes.
and all that.
Yes. So I got a very different view than what I normally hear. My view is this: the Sixers have not revealed what their arena is. Like you see a graphic of it, like it looks like a picture, right? Honeycomb top or something, right? Well, they would have to have an architectural design. They would have to have in detail, like in other words,
it
if
gonna
they're
look
really
like?
building this, they already have it. If they don't have it, then I can't believe they're actually building it. They would have financing. They would have had already a traffic study, a parking study, a public transportation. They have all that stuff, right? But they've never shown it. So I think the arena is basically tremendously disruptive. And to me, I'm not even sure if it's real. So what I would do, and what I urge the mayor to do, is to say this: listen, 76ers, you are creating all this havoc in our city because who's going to invest in that area? Some businesses are thinking about selling their business, right? Some people can't live there. Some people are worried about the rent over a thing that you're saying, but you've never provided any actual documentation that it's real. And now you're pitting African Americans against Asians. And I would say you better come up you're saying like 2 million in job training for what jobs? Like these are all very vague things. They're saying, I'd like to see, because nobody's talking about a over $1 billion construction project that does not have a lot of details.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I'm glad that you mentioned that. It appears that there's this, because even when the whole kind of policy conversation and the challenge conversation happened around Black folks and the Asian community and the Asian hate, and it always appears that they're pitting two kind of minority groups, demographics together, and it's constant fighting that it seems like they're pushing. Yes, do that. Yeah. Push it. Let's keep fighting, because that way, the real issues, they'll ignore them. Why?
Divide and conquer.
Yes, divide. Why do you think that is?
Well, for me, first of all, I can't believe that this Sixers thing has been in the news the way it is, because there's been no proof of it. There's no evidence that the thing is real. And for however they're doing it, and I'm not saying it isn't real.
Yeah, for sure.
But if it is real, why won't you show us what it is? It makes me wonder, what exactly is it that you got there that you're not showing us, right? Because there's no arena that's going to be built without the approval of the city.
100%.
But you're not showing us what it is. And then they're going to Chinatown saying you're going to have these restaurants, jobs, you're going to do all this. And now they're like, okay, no, we're going to the Black community. We are going to have what jobs? What, in other words, they're saying we're going to do basketball, that we're going to have the games there, but we're also going to do concerts. What concerts? Are you are you in? You got a contract with Live Nation? What exactly do you have? What is your demographic? And then, it's to me you're going to have these season ticket holders take the subway. And then when the game's done, they're going to take the subway back? I find that a little difficult to understand.
Yeah.
So it seems odd to me, but what I would say is, I think someone like our mayor has got to say, okay, you have created so much havoc in this city about something you've never actually demonstrated. We need to know the square footage. We need to know what kind of utilities. We need to know what full-time jobs, part-time jobs, what you're displacing, where these cars are parking. We need to see in detail what you want to fund, because nobody's funding a project out of thin air.
Wow. This time flies so quickly. Two more questions for you.
Yep.
I would be remiss if I don't bring up, the judge. Judge De Leon was on the show.
Yep.
And he mentioned him being in some type of conversation.
Yeah, I talked about building a prison.
Yeah, you talked about building a prison.
Yes.
You have to talk a little bit about that. I think that went over, it didn't go over well for some.
Sure.
And I would love the opportunity for you to kind
Sure.
of explain it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we build a hospital, are we hoping that people get sick? We're not.
Right.
But the issue have arisen, and I'm not saying for no good cause, but it is about mass incarceration and a prison industrial complex and building a prison, basically, for profit and trying to stick people in there. Okay, that's real and it's a problem. However, here in Philadelphia, what we have House of Corrections, which is one of our several county facilities. It's shut down as it should be, right? It's old, it's inhumane, so we don't use it.
Right.
So what happens is we don't have enough space. And okay, we don't want people to be in prison, but guess what? When they stab someone, shoot someone, threaten to kill someone, domestic violence, whatever, the judge says you're going to be held.
Right.
We can't hold them because we don't have the space.
Right.
So even though the judge tells the victim and their family, this person will be held until the next whatever, the prison lets them out.
Right.
And one of the problems we have right now with all this gun violence and murder is the person who comes out starts looking for the witnesses and the victim, right? Which is adding to this whole thing of not cooperating, not cooperating with the police. But now if you can't cooperate, if you're going to get shot by, the young people and people that were supposed to be held for your security and safety, first of all, you don't want to cooperate, but what can you do? Right. Just be held up in your home. So the other problem is this: because of the lack of space, the people that are being held are in very bad. They're being housed in very poor conditions.
Right.
It's not. We should not be putting people in like that. And we've had, unfortunately, people get killed in our prisons. Yeah. It's all part of that. The other thing is then our workers are quitting. Like what happens is. Some people may know this, right? So if you are, let's say, an IT person or a health person, you go in to your shift, you're supposed to come out on a Friday. Well, other people called out. So you're not coming out on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, right? Now, who wants to live like that? So people are quitting. So what I'd say is this. I know people don't want to build a new prison, but I would say you have to accommodate for the people who are in our prisons. Some of them they're there because of misdemeanor sentences. Right. The rest of them are innocent until proven guilty of that crime. They're awaiting a trial. Right. And what I would do, I think, is if we have to build a space, why don't we separate people who are being held? Why don't we build a new kind of prison where if you have to be held, you can go in, lock that door for your safety, but during the day, get out, get on the internet, talk to your family, talk to your employer, do your work. See, we have a lot of people that are being held, but they don't have a violent history or anything. They're not being held because of violence. Right. So if someone's got a DUI and they can't, they're being held for the second DUI, I don't think they should be in a situation where they're dealing with someone who's had 7 aggravated assaults on them and convicted either. I think we can build a better type of facility where people, if they have been arrested, they're still innocent until proven guilty, can maintain their family, maintain their rent, maintain things like that, and we can move them in there so that when it's time for them to leave, we can make sure they have electricity, they have a home to go to. If they need a driver's license, we can start setting those type of things up. But the fundamental thing is we will not address the crime problem in this city. As much as people don't want to have prison space, right. You do need prison space.
Okay. And rehabilitation.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. We're trying to prevent them from getting in there in the first place, right?
Or coming back.
Yeah. How about that recidivism, right? And so, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, unfortunately, now a lot of people that are being arrested are the ones that are drug addicts themselves.
So I think we can separate people who are addicted from people who are offenders in the sense of violence.
No doubt. So my last question. My last question to you is, they said a lot about that the candidates are missing the mark, pretty much. They're they don't really get the pulse of what the community actually wants, right? Right. And so, what can you running for mayor? What do you believe will be the first thing that you want to jump on and say, this is what I believe, Philadelphia needs to start and make happen and fix for the people of Philadelphia?
Well, the first thing is we have to stop the violence. And I mean, we have to stop the murders. When we stop the murders, from there we can address education, public spaces, jobs, everything else. But as long as people are afraid of being physically harmed, killed, shot, stabbed, not only do they not live well, people don't want to come back to work in our city. People don't want to come to our restaurants, and they don't want to, Now, the reason that's important is because if we lose all that money, the only place the city's going to get its money is from the residents by raising their property taxes and other things. And people, especially poor people, have had their taxes raised so much, they're struggling to keep their houses. And so the villain is city government.
That's right.
And so when you don't pay attention to the economy, all that weight is upon the poor. See, they always say, like, we're going to tax the rich. They never tax the rich. That's just like a thing to say. It's always the poor. You look at any soda tax is on the poor.
That's right.
Property tax on the poor.
That's right.
Everything is on the poor because the poor are victimized by it.
Right. So I want you to actually look in this camera, and I want you to tell the community why should they vote for you for mayor, this coming mayor? Why should you, David O, be the mayor of Philadelphia?
Well, I hope you'll vote for me because you believe that I will do the things that I say. I've done that as a council person. I've done that throughout my life. The things I say, I actually try to do. And I have fought this city government for the wrong things it does, from, for example, bringing a lawsuit in federal court to fighting with the Department of Human Services when they take children they should not be taking. They do a lot of good things. I try to do things to address your very concerns, such as minimum force training for police and deploying police, and doing things like creating a nonprofit fund to reimburse teachers, or to bring arts and the creative economy to this city. At the end of the day, we will need to have a mayor that represents all the people of our city, including those who don't vote and those who people think don't vote, because right now we're only catering to a very small percentage of the people in this city, and that's why we don't have a common sense and a common vision for what our city should be.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, wow. There you go. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. One thing that we always say is once you come to the show, you're a friend to the show, so you're always welcome to come back. But we're very adamant with, being truthful with the community that we serve, right? And when it comes to We Talk Weekly, we have a lot of people that come on in terms of politicians, and they want to talk to, our constituents, the people who watching, our viewers. And, we never take sides, but we are very clear with the people who we have seen have been doing this work.
Right.
And you have been one of them. And so I just want to thank you for doing that and continue, because I'm a huge advocate of the arts community, radio, television, and film, and, fashion. And, I'm a wardrobe stylist, and, in Philadelphia. And, it's one of those things where we say we need the support to continue to strive, because not only are we creating a revenue stream, but we're creating jobs also.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so I just want to say thank you again for coming to the show. And, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want you to go anywhere. When we come back, we got another dynamic interview. We Talk Weekly after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful
Lauren Sizzle.
and the beautiful
Classy Lady Sparkle.
and the beautiful
Lady S. Dot.
Lady S. Dot and Sir.
All right, David O. Not so beautiful, but here I am.
There you go. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after this, y'all. Listen, dynamic show. Loved it. Dynamic interview. We'll be right back, y'all.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Lauren Sizzle, and you are now tuned in to one of the hottest talk shows in the nation, We Talk Weekly's After the Talk.
I'm Classy Lady Sparkle. You want to binge listen to our shows? Follow the We Talk Weekly's podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spreaker.
What up, folks? It's your boy Charles Gregory. Make sure to follow us on all our socials at We Talk Weekly.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Lily. So make sure you keep it locked to We Talk Weekly on 106.5 FM.